Welcome to another round of coffee and donuts. I'm Frank. I'm the director of law enforcement training here at ACT, and this is where I answer your questions about becoming a police officer. Let's discuss. Hey, before we get started, we answer any and all questions that come across our social platforms, and we will get to them in a timely manner. If you have something that's a little bit more private, you can go over to our website at armageddonct.com, and you can send us a contact form over there and ask your question in a more private setting. I understand some things are sensitive. In addition to that, we have our blog that we are posting content on every week. I highly encourage you to take a look at it because we have additional trainings in there that is more than just the hiring process. It's succeeding totally in the law enforcement career and profession. Now, I have my three pre-submitted questions. Let's jump into it. First one, thank you for all your content. I appreciate that. When do you typically get a formal offer letter? I've received my conditional and start the academy soon, being fitted for a uniform tomorrow. Okay, here's a big thing with this. Now, once again, I don't know the department, right? But what I will tell you is every department's a little bit different. A conditional offer sometimes is used by law enforcement officers, just rebranded, right? Or they just call it a conditional offer because it's on the condition that you complete the academy and your probation. That could be your official offer letter. If that letter has a start date associated with it, plus you're getting your uniform fitting, I would consider that an official start letter. Now, I'm adamant about saying you're never really hired until you have that official start date or you actually walk in for that official start date to be a little bit more specific. But at the same point in time, the way that you're asking this, it sounds like you have your official letter. It sounds like they're just using the conditional letter as, their official offer. Not every department does a conditional offer letter. What a conditional offer letter could represent is you pass your written exam, your physical exam, and your board interview, and they say, "Hey, we like you. We want to extend this conditional offer," which means we will hire you as long as you meet these conditions. You pass your poly, your psych, your med, your background, right? That's a typical what most people consider a conditional offer. But I've seen it more and more where departments are calling their final offer or their first initial offer a conditional offer under the condition that you complete the academy. So it makes sense, right? It's confusing only because so many departments do it differently, but it's a reasonable way for a department to use a conditional offer. The way you're saying, if you're being fitted for uniforms by the department, it's a good sign. It sounds like you might have, and you have your official academy start date or your first report date for the department when you're supposed to sign your hiring documents. I think you're good to go. But once again, hard to say just off of this, but it sounds pretty good for you. I think what it is, I think your conditional offer might be your official offer, but you can always provide me with more information at a later time and I'll do my best to answer it. All right, next one. So after nearly a month into my background investigations, my assigned investigator showed up at my door for an unannounced visit. Nice. Okay. He was, of course, well received. Good for you. I was properly groomed in well order living space, as is my typical. I haven't touched on this in a long time. There's more to this. Actually, I'll finish up. Can anyone from experience speak to whether this is a good sign that the process is progressing in the positive, that being in a home visit or just standard operating platform? I remain optimistic in the absolute regardless. And thank you all in advance. Okay. From what I could interpret from that, yes, this is a really good sign. So this is why I say this, because this still happens, right? Uh, Uncommon as it is, it still happens. So a background investigator, hey, what's your work schedule? What days are you off? They're investigating, right? That's their job, right? They're most of the time they're detectives or investigators, so they're good at their job. If they are saying, hey, or if they're showing up and it's an unannounced home visit, that's a good sign. Now, knowing that you're in the police background and knowing that you're applying to a local department, you should always have your home and you should always be in a well-groomed standard. So what do I mean by this? Your house should always be clean for this specific instance right here. Is that hard to do? Yes, I understand some people have children and everything, but I'm talking about a presentable manner, like a livable manner. do your best to try and keep it as well maintained as possible while going through the hiring process because of things just like this. Uh, I'm more using this comment and this question to train and educate those that may still have this. But for this individual, having that well prepared looks so good to a background investigator. And to sum it up from my experience, that is an excellent thing that just happened. Yes, you are moving forward very well in the hiring process if they're doing home visits. Home visits are a really big part of it if the department even does them, but it's a really big part of it. And the fact that you were well prepared for it, the house was cleaned and prepared, and then you were maintaining your professional appearance as well. I don't think it could have been done any better. Big thing for that is it just standard operating procedure? It sounds like it could be for that department. For other candidates, maybe not, right? Once again, not too many departments do unannounced visits. I've seen them do unannounced visits for references, neighbor references, but less so for, home visits for you. But it could have been that. They could have been going around getting neighbor references and just saw that you were home and decided to stop by for an unannounced visit. You just don't know. But at the end of the day, it sounds like you crushed it. So keep us up to date. I want to know how it went. So fill us in and let me know if you got any other success indicator, such as you got notification of moving on to another phase or scheduling another phase. So keep an eye out for that. Okay. Last one. I filed bankruptcy 14 years ago. It shouldn't be a hurdle, right? It will be a hurdle, but not as big as you think it will be, or it will only be as big as you make it. So 14 years ago, if you filed bankruptcy, that's you definitely have enough time and distance from that. But the question is in the last 14 years, have you improved your financial responsibility? What I mean is, do you have a better credit score? Are you meeting your financial obligations? What was the reason for the bankruptcy? They might ask you about that. Sometimes departments won't go back 14 years. Sometimes they'll only go back 7 years or 10 years for financial history. Other times they'll go back your entire lifetime. What I will tell you in all accounts, if people take one thing from this training or some of the other trainings, is I don't want to hear, hey, the department only goes back 10 years anymore. That might just be that specific department. If you're serious about preparing for this and you're filling out, say, a sample or a practice PHS to use for your career moving forward, fill it all the way back to birth if you can, right? Fill it as far back as possible that's accurate because if a department if you're applying to a different department or you're lateraling to a different department down the line, you're going to have all that information. And why have to go back when even another 10 years have passed and try to get more information when you can just add it and stack to what you know is already accurate, right? So for this, going back to the bankruptcy, if they do go back that far back, make sure you're ready to articulate it. Make sure that you have the actual facts of the circumstances. Hey, yes, there was a situation where either, I had a separation from a spouse or I was on a financial hardship because of the, um, you know, 2008 crash or whatever it was, and explain that to them in a professional manner. Now, don't use it as a crutch or an excuse, but use it and explain it as a professional manner and just be ready to articulate it. But the bigger question is it going to be a hurdle? Is if that is the start of it, and then they still see any financial struggles, or I shouldn't say struggles, but financial incompetence, right? And what I mean is you've made mistakes, not that life happened, that's fine, but you've made mistakes that you didn't address, such as you have things in collections. Now still you have you're on the verge of another bankruptcy. Um, Late payments leading up to it, a poor credit score even currently now, it's not going to be a good look because it's going to look like you didn't grow and mature from that past bankruptcy, even though it was 14 years ago. So just keep that in mind. But 14 years, no. If you've done everything right and you articulate it right, should not be a hurdle whatsoever. Just know you can make it a hurdle by misarticulating it. So I hope this helps. Remember, if you have any additional training that you want, you can go check out our blog. We're posting in there every single week. If you want your comments answered, you can post them on any of our social platforms. We will answer them there, and they get a chance to get listed here on Coffee and Donuts. Other than that, stay safe, and I will see you next time.